gang, here we go. Shots 36 and 37. I'm going to pour the paint and go right into it. We can cut it however much as we want later. I think I am going to pour more yellow. Here we go. Hi, my name is Andrew Strickland. I'm the researcher behind the Lurna Chronicles and www.artisticinquiry.com. This is going to be a little bit of a different process for me. I'm used to working from scripts and making films and live theater. Today I'm just trying to talk back about what's happened with the process and explain a little bit about what goes into doing an artistic inquiry and the experiences and challenges I faced along the way. That short clip that led into this is from the filming of the second of the Lurna Chronicles triptych. In that, kind of interestingly, was right before I started to film the tap section, and I love the excitement in my voice, the little hint of fear and trepidation in my voice going into a very, very hard shoot that I knew I only had one shot for. And I think the sound there and the feeling in that shot is very consistent with sort of the feeling and the reaction I've had through this entire process. I'm looking forward to taking you through all of it, giving you a feel for it, showing you some of the outtakes from the process, and giving you a feel for what it's like to join in with Lurna and all of his friends. I thought I'd establish some ground rules for this reflection, more for me than anyone else. I'm not speaking on notes today, I'm not speaking off a script. I do have some speaking points that I plan to go off of regularly and get away from and try to address other things. I want this to flow naturally. I want this to be a chance really to just talk to you about how this went. There are some questions that I'm asked regularly about the artistic inquiries when people see them that I want to cover, and some other fun stuff along the way, but that's what we're going to try to do. Well, since I come from a theater background, I think that anyone watching this should hopefully be at least vaguely entertained. I don't see the least thing entertaining about my head in the screen talking to you the whole time. So we're going to go back and forth between my reflections and a chance to look at some of the outtakes from the 3 previous films. Well, a series of outtakes would just not be complete without the standard line misses. I'm a long-time actor, which simply means I have mastered the art of messing up my line spectacularly. Day 5. I am completely frustrated over my lack of ability to do anything like saying my line correctly. Lack of success with learning. Yes. Take 742. Oh, and here comes another call. Look at me like I'm out of my mind. Of course I am. Rabbit. I'm going to try that again.
Don't we have rules? Aren't they for a reason? Don't I know my line? If there's one thing I do as an executive here at Triarchic, it's follow the rules. Yes, yes, yes. Line, line, line.
Well,
Scratch.
I'm Robert Sternberg, the curator of the curator who can't talk. Of course, your way might actually be better. Maybe one this. Let's try again. Lurna is a true liberal. Off to find new worlds and new civilizations. Let's try that again. That's what happens when you're shooting off script. Let me take a moment to speak on how I got into artistic inquiry in the first place. In working on my education specialist degree at Lesley University, I was looking at trying to bring across some data to an audience. I absolutely hate PowerPoints. As a performing artist, I like to find a way to really reach out to an audience, and so I thought I would try to perform my data. And in creating a piece to bring a small set of data to an audience, I found out that I was making connections to the data that I hadn't when I did sort of a standard pen and paper analysis of them. And I thought, if I can sort of accidentally stumble onto these insights through performing the data, what would happen if I started using performance to actually analyze data as well as present it to others? And I've had great success with that, and I found it powerful for me personally just to make sort of connections and reflections. That's what led to this process, and what led to me talking to you right now. For me, artistic inquiry is just a natural step I believe that theater is the most collaborative of the arts. Having been involved with theater seemingly my whole life, I've had a chance to work in all of the different arts modalities. I've worked in visual arts. I've worked with music, both vocal and instrumental. Obviously, I've performed with theater. I do dance. You name it, I've had a chance to do all of them. And with artistic inquiry, I have a chance to use all of those, which is a powerful thing to me. Another hugely powerful thing for me is that coming from an arts background, I tend to learn very kinesthetically. I've learned very much physically, even more so than reading it or hearing it. And so if I have a chance to physicalize something, to actually get my body into learning it, it just comes through more for me. And so as a very personal thing, this helps me learn material better. I expected to learn a lot about adult learning throughout this process. I'm not sure I really expected to learn a lot about my acting. Yet I did. What I discovered in these next series of clips is that whenever I mess up a line, I tend to make a very peculiar sound. And I do it a lot. I have decided that I have to interest... Take 74.
No. If there's one thing I do at Triarchic...
Or maybe I'll just think about it while I'm... It wasn't long thereafter that I saw... It wasn't long thereafter that I'm going to make up this line correctly. I like learning your line, it's like inventing your line. I am like your Congress, a one-man list... And that's how it happened. Mr. Joplin, your music is introducing one of the most... Don't worry about it, Lurna. That is why we have... Look, you won't have any problems finding a new... Now, how did the Lurna Chronicles begin? Not as a film series, actually. I was required to do an independent study as part of my PhD work back at Lesley University. I'm working towards a doctorate in adult learning, and I was required to do an independent study specifically on adult learning, trying to increase my knowledge of the theorists in the field. I wanted to approach it differently. When I sat down trying to write my independent study, I constantly was hitting roadblocks. I could not think of how I wanted to approach the data in a way that would be different for me. And I finally got up the nerve to ask my advisor, Dr. Terry Keeney, if I could possibly use artistic inquiry with it. And he was very, very supportive of that. And suddenly, the independent study, which I've been kind of dreading in some ways, I got very excited about, because it meant learning in a style that is personally very relevant to me. My original idea was that I was going to work with 6 theorists, and I was going to do a very small inquiry on each. It might have been something simple as a visual artwork, like a painting representing one of them, or maybe a song, or maybe a small skit, small performance piece that could be filmed and displayed. The sort of challenges, though, of doing my PhD work in Georgia for a school that's in Cambridge, Massachusetts, led me to start thinking about film. I am not a filmmaker nor a film actor. However, in this era where anyone can pull up YouTube or any of the other online film sharing sites, it's a powerful medium. You can reach the world with that in a way that an individualized live performance you can't always do. And I kind of went back and forth between, do I want to take a live performance and film it so I can share it, or do I actually want to script something specifically to film? Now, as a live theater artist, I find that filmed versions of live performances never quite meet up to the actual live event. There's always something kind of lost in the translation onto film, or onto whatever electric medium it's getting onto these days. So I figured that even though I'm sort of resistant to film, I might want to try at least one of the artistic inquiries on film, to actually video it, so I could reach people that way, and it would still have the impact and wouldn't lose anything in the transition. So I decided to go with Knowles for that, for Malcolm Knowles's The Adult Learner and a Neglected Species, largely because andragogy is such a beginning of sort of modern adult learning theory to many people, and it was my beginning to adult learning theory, and something that I connect with very, very closely, and I see Knowles's comments just reflected in my life all the time. So I wanted to start there, And just the term neglected species suggested so much to me a lost tribesman. And I thought that might be fun to experiment with. So that's what sort of started the first one. I mentioned early on that I am neither a film director nor a film actor. My sort of disdain for film acting began when I was a young actor, and a play I was in was being converted into a film, and I carried it on into the same role in the film, and found that my eyes were a complete and total nightmare. I was always looking everywhere around, except where I was supposed to be looking. I have very fair skin and very dark eyes, and it was like a neon sign saying he has no clue what he's doing. And I've fought that over the years, both on stage and my very, very brief times on any sort of video. I found, however, in this process that my eyes can still drive me crazy. Aside from my eyes cut into the camera, I spotted him walking down the road, carrying his triptych under one arm. Yes? No, Lurna. I'm afraid I cannot let... Stop kicking your eyes over. Dang. Hey! What you doing? Hey, stop cutting your eyes to the camera. You're gonna get in the shot. Oh, without cutting the eyes, please. Trust yourself. To analyze our little group, I would do something like this. Like, not cut my eyes to the camera. Dang. That might have ruined the shot. So, to analyze our little group, I would do something like this. This is 36. Turda! 36 again without cutting the eyes. Without cutting your eyes, please. These will be waiting right here for you. Cut my eyes. I have a feeling we probably would have just stopped at one film if the first one wasn't so well received. I faced a lot of challenges doing that first one. Again, I've never made a film before. And I set out by myself with a tripod, a camera. I use a fairly simple Sony camcorder. It has a hard drive on it. Besides that, it's not that fancy. My tripod is very much not fancy. And it was pretty much that and me. I used an MP3 recorder every now and then to do some of the voiceover work. Everything was edited using Pinnacle 12 Studio software. Pinnacle Studio 12 software on an ordinary PC laptop. Very low tech in this high tech world, really. It was mainly done just out of sort of sheer trial and error. I did do all the filming myself. It may not seem like that. Even now you can see the camera kind of moving. The camera I have does have a system that tries to center what it wants to center on the screen. Often that was more of a hindrance than a help, as I would have a shot set up and the camera would think, no, he wants this in the center, and it would move. However, what it did do is give this sort of natural sense of movement to it, which seemed like there was a little more humanity involved in the actual filming of it. Why just me in all of them? Well, it kind of just happened. The first one, there were only 2 characters, and I thought it would be easier at that point just to do those. So I was filming it over Labor Day weekend, and I thought, I could play these 2. I could get clever with handing stuff to myself off of shot. I could come up with a costume for one of the characters so that I looked different enough, or do something different vocally that it would work. And I enjoyed that. In fact, it got into a little more than just playing the 2 characters. Once again, as always seems to happen with artistic inquiry, there were some observations that came out of that.